15 Reasons why you should not commit fornication. It is unfortunate that many brethren don't understand the horrible consequence of fornication. It is a grievous sin, with greater consequences due to generational curses and blood covenant embedded within. That is reason why many life is in shackle in great mess. No marriage, barrenness, poverty, failure, and backwardness. 15 Reasons why you should not commit fornication. 1. Fornication is disobedience. The first reason why you should not commit fornication is that it is disobedience to God. Behold, to obey is better than sacrifice, and to hearken than the fat of rams. 1 Samuel 15:22. We are all subject to the temptation to fornicate. But the priority of every Christian must be to obey the Lord. If you do not obey God, you stand to lose. Obedience means more to God than any great sacrifice that you can make to Him. Some of you come to church, put your offering in the basket, pay your tithes, lift up your hands and worship His majesty. You give sacrifices of praise to God. But God prefers your simple obedience to your many offerings and lifted hands. I once met a lady who told me that the commandment not to commit fornication is an old-fashioned law, meant for the olden days. She argued that it was no longer a realistic instruction. Even if it does not make sense to you, your duty is still to obey God. Christianity has to do with your relationship with the Lord. As a Christian, you are dependent on God, and it is only the Lord who can bless you. If you choose to disobey and disregard God, I do not know what kind of relationship you want to have with Him. When you disobey God, you incur God's curses upon your life. Some people complain that it is difficult to obey God. It costs so much, they say. Dear friend, the truth is that it pays to obey God, but it costs to disobey Him. As you read the rest of this book, you will realize that when God gives us a commandment, it is for our own good. It pays to obey God, but it is very expensive to disobey Him. 2. Fornication will destroy your soul. But whoso committeth adultery with a woman lacketh understanding. He that doth it destroyeth his own soul. Proverbs 6:32. When you commit fornication, the Bible says you will destroy your soul. This means that fornication will have an effect on you spiritually. Anybody who is involved in fornication gets affected spiritually. You may not know exactly how it affects you, but it does affect you, and will lead you to backslide. On Sunday mornings there are people sitting in church knowing very well what they did the night before. Some Christians even come to church straight from their boyfriends' beds. Your pastor may not know what you have done. He may have shaken hands with you, but did not have any word of knowledge about you. So you continue in sin. Know that it is gradually destroying your soul. Your inner self is affected. With experience, I have come to see that when somebody commits fornication, his spiritual life takes a nosedive. When a Christian falls into immorality, his lifestyle changes. The destruction of the soul has begun. 3. Fornication will destroy your body. Flee fornication. Every sin that a man doth is without the body, but he that committeth fornication sinneth against his own body. 1 Corinthians 6:18. When you commit fornication, you commit sin directly against your own body. When you commit fornication, you commit a crime against your body. You are destroying your body. If you commit a crime against the state, you are said to be destroying the state. That is why the state will arrest and prosecute you. In the same way, when you commit fornication, you commit a crime against your body, and God will prosecute you for that. Know ye not that your body is the temple of the Holy Ghost? 1 Corinthians 6:19. 4. You make covenants with all sorts of people. Sex is intended to be a binding experience between two people. Know that when you commit fornication, you make a covenant with whoever you had sex with. God's plan is that when a woman has sex for the first time, her hymen is broken and blood is shed. Whenever blood is shed, some sort of agreement or covenant is created. That means when you have sex with different people, you may actually be entering into union with them. Agreements are made because blood is shed. That is one of the reasons why Paul asked, "Shall I then take the members of Christ, and make them the members of an harlot. God forbid. 1 Corinthians 6:15. Such covenants are for real. They can affect you for the rest of your life. I have seen people who have been crippled all their Christian lives because of fornication. Some Christians never rise out of the covenant of fornication. The son of a fetish priest came to our church some years ago. He told us how he got involved in witchcraft. He said he once slept in the cemetery with his father. After 7 days his father cut his hand, drew his blood and mixed it with his own. Then they both drank the blood and made a permanent agreement. A covenant of witchcraft. This brother was under that covenant. A time came when he had to decide between his father, that is following the fetish, and following Christ. This young man could not break away from this blood covenant. Friend, I am talking here about blood covenants. He left the church after some months and went back to his father's shrine. Although he was born again, and knew the Lord, he could not easily break away from his covenant. Blood and covenants are real things, so do not sleep with just anybody. You may be sleeping with a witch, and that witch will be in your home all the days of your life. 5. Fornication brings evil spirits into your life. Babylon the Great is become the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit, and a cage of every unclean and hateful bird. Revelation 18. 2. A stronghold of evil spirits is a refuge, a sanctuary, or a hiding place for demons. Why did so many evil spirits come to live in Babylon? Why has Babylon become a hold of demons? According to Revelations 18:3, for all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication, and the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her. The kings, the ministers of state, the rich and the famous have committed fornication with her. That is why evil spirits have come into her life. Fornication attracts evil spirits into your life. This is so true of many Christians' lives. Evil spirits have aggregated and congregated in them because of their fornication. When God says do not do something, He knows why. Some of the evil spirits that come into you can prevent you from ever getting married. Some evil spirits can cause you to backslide. Some of them will cause you to marry the wrong person. Some of them can cause you to have a bad marriage. Some of these evil spirits can also lead you into unfaithfulness in your marriage. The list is endless. Do you want to become a hiding place for demons? 6. Fornication brings sickness. There are a host of diseases that only come about through sexual intercourse. We call these STDs, sexually transmitted diseases. The germs that cause these diseases will have access into you when you commit fornication. Let me mention only 10 of them. Please notice how big the names of these animals are. Neisseria gonococcus, this causes gonorrhea. Treponema pallidum, this causes syphilis. Chlamydia trachomatis, this causes nonspecific urethritis. Hepatitis B virus, this causes liver diseases. Herpes simplex type 2 virus, this causes herpes genitalis. Trichomonas vaginalis, this causes vaginitis. Lymphogranuloma venereum. Haemophilus ducreae, this causes soft sore, chancroid. Urinary tract infection. Cancer of the cervix. Frequent sex at an early age predisposes you to cancer of the cervix. If you wait till you marry before having sex, you may save yourself from all these diseases. But if you continue to commit fornication, then remember that all these animals will enter your body and make you sick. 7. Fornication brings death. Fornication will kill you if you acquire the human immunovirus, HIV. Unless God works a miracle, you may die of AIDS. HIV is now a death sentence. It is sad to say that in the charismatic churches there are many Christians who are HIV positive. A laboratory technician once gave me some alarming statistics. A team of lab technicians organized a blood donation event in a charismatic church, and out of about 100 people who donated blood, a large percentage tested positive for HIV. In other words, our churches have significant numbers of people with the HIV virus. Fornicating with your fellow church member may mean your death. Those who are HIV positive can develop AIDS. And when you have AIDS, it means you have a few more years to live. 8. Fornication brings unwanted pregnancies. Do you want to attend school with your child? When I was in secondary school, there was a man in the 6th form who was said to have a child in Form 1. How could this be? Probably due to an unwanted pregnancy earlier on in his life. 9. Brings unwanted abortions. If you commit fornication and become pregnant, it is most likely that you will want to hide it by committing abortion. You are falling into the same trap that David fell into when he committed adultery. Murder is the commonest evil that follows the sin of fornication. Abortion is the sin of murder. Many fornicators are murderers. Multiple abortionists are multiple murderers. Dear friend, you may not know that abortion is murder. Medically speaking, abortion is the termination of human life. The human life may be just a few cells, but it is human life. Are you a murderer? 10. Fornication brings infertility. Let me explain how fornication brings infertility. During an abortion, various instruments similar to knives and forks are introduced into the womb. This often leads to infection. And this infection often leads to blocking of the fallopian tubes. Young lady, if your fallopian tubes are blocked, you will not be able to become pregnant. Then you may find yourself in every deliverance center looking for healing. Receive your deliverance now by obeying the word. 11. Fornication brings unwanted children. Unwanted children are usually products of fornication. Why should you be pregnant when you are a 16-year-old student? Your child is supposed to be your daughter or son and not your younger sister or brother. 12. The unwanted children become social deviants. Whenever a child is not wanted, he becomes a reject in society. Many deviants in society have a background of having been unwanted. I remember a young boy who beat up his mother and left home. No one knows where he is. I asked why a young 6th former should behave in this unbecoming manner. The answer can be traced to his mother's history. This young lad was a product of his mother's fornication when she was only 15 years old. The boy had been made to stay with different aunties and other relatives. You see, his mother had to continue schooling. When his mother eventually got married, she was ashamed of her unwanted child. So he continued staying with other sympathetic relatives. Naturally, the young lad grew up doing very poorly in school. He was suspended several times and became what we call a social deviant, a very bitter boy. Now whose fault is it? Do not blame any child who is born out of fornication if he becomes a social deviant. 13. Fornication brings disgrace. A wound and dishonor shall he get, and his reproach shall not be wiped away. Proverbs 6. 33. Although fornication is an international and cross-cultural sin committed by many people, it is still a disgraceful act. Save yourself from this disgrace. 14. Fornication brings hurts and wounds. Read the story of Tamar and Amnon in the 2nd book of Samuel, chapter 13. Fornication leads to many hurts. Tamar was hurt. Absalom, her brother, was hurt. King David was hurt. The relationship between Tamar and Amnon was broken forever. What you must realize is that fornication is essentially wrong and evil. It only leads to many terrible and devastating complications in life. 15. Fornication breaks marriages. Fornication is often the last straw that breaks the camel's back in unhappy marriages. God knows that this is the sin which has the ability to destroy marriages.